This is the most highly anticipated football season at Ole Miss in Oxford, Mississippi, and that's saying something because we have had some super duper, out of this world, highly anticipated, hyped up seasons in Oxford and at Ole Miss. This one, it's not even close. Preseason top 5, preseason top 10, depending on the 847 preseason polls out there. This is ESPN 105.9 The Zone. Lane Kiffin won 11 games last year. But he basically told the alums what they needed to do after the Georgia game last year. They lost by 35. And he said, we don't look like them. We don't look like them in the trenches. So they added pieces from A&M and Florida, among others, on the defensive line, added pieces from University of Washington, among others, on the offensive side of the football. And they have a schedule that is unbelievable. And so here we go. Most people think that the absolute floor is 9 wins. And a lot of people can't even find a third loss on the schedule. Some people believe the floor is 10-2. We are the Out of Bounds Show, ESPN 105.9 The Zone. We're live in the Bank Plus studio, and the show is brought to you by Farm Bureau Insurance. Bundle your car and home and save with your local Farm Bureau insurance agent. And we welcome in Jake Thompson, Ole Miss Spirit. He joins us on the Farm Bureau Insurance guest line. Jake, are you locked in for football season, my man?
I am. I've been trying to start fall camp while also moving houses at the same time. So it's been a week, but I'm finally settled and ready to go. Just focus solely on this football season.
All right. So what is the schedule? What is the schedule today? I don't even know.
They hit the practice field. We get to go in about an hour and see a little bit. The typical windows that we see under Lane Kiffin. Last year we got to see a little bit more to start out fall camp, and then he pulled the curtain back a little bit as the season got closer, but from the start, and it's probably a lot to do with, as you said in the lead-in, the most anticipated season. All the expectations just want to keep as much, I guess, away from us and everybody else as possible, even in the early stages of fall camp. But he's kind of taking that Nick Saban approach, because I guess there is no Nick Saban at the moment per se in terms of how he handles practice and getting ready and limited media, availability, so to speak. But we'll see a little bit, and then he'll talk to us a little around lunchtime once practice is done.
Okay. So you get access to Lane Train today and some players after practice?
Yeah, we do.
Okay. That's cool. And so how much do you get? 20, 30 minutes? How does that work?
Yeah, it's periods is what they tell us, and it's just kind of in flux. We get a handful. We're not out there too terribly long, and then they kind of tell us we can go sit and wait or come back once the player and Kiffin interview starts. So it's kind of already in mid-season form in terms of that stuff. But it's just how it is, and it doesn't really surprise me. And I get there's probably a myriad of reasons in his head for not letting us see kind of the whole practice, but it's fine at the same time. I get it.
Yeah. Jake Thompson talking Ole Miss football. So, Jake, are you buying that? Where do you stand? Are they a national championship contender or a college foot? They're more of a college football playoff team. Can they compete with Georgia or Ohio State or Bama for the national championship? Have they done that much to, I guess, not just close the gap, but be eye to eye with the Georgia?
I think on paper, they made the moves, and he and the players, Kiffin and the players have said as much. They made the moves that they felt they needed to, and he was asked last week when we did our local media day last Wednesday if he felt he checked off some of those boxes that he set for himself or questioned after that Georgia game last year, and Kiffin felt they had, but of course that's on paper, and you're in the early weeks of camp, you're not full pads, you're not going full speed all the way in certain drills. So, it's tough to say. And of course, I have, depending on what day or what time of the day, I've also gone back to the floor being 9 wins to 10 wins. And there may be 3 losses. No, there's only 2. So I for sure see them, if everything goes well and they don't stub their toe somewhere and trip up, I I see them as an obvious 12-team contender, and then from there, I think momentum will just have to dictate if they are just happy to get their 12-team member, or if they can make a couple, a run towards that national championship or at least the semis. But I think the Oklahoma game is first, and then that Georgia game is not too far after. So we may not get a lot of those kind of questions answered till midway in the back half of the season.
Okay, how do you let's? I expect them to be 6-0 going into LSU. So, do you have them right now? It's I think a 2-point. LSU's a 2-point favorite in Baton Rouge. How do you handicap that one for me? You like Ole Miss in that game? LSU? Are you counting that as a W?
I feel like this is a better Ole Miss team, but but it feels like Brian Kelly's got a better feel for what his roster and his guys are this year. At least that's how he's kind of coming across. I saw him in media days a couple, in Dallas, and just from other stuff I'm reading from his interviews. But also you've got Garrett Nussmeier, who is not, you should not scoff at him. He's a talented quarterback, but he's going to be brand new in terms of a starting role. He's going to have to get, kind of work through that with his offense. Jane Daniels is not there. So 2.5 to LSU, I think in the preseason is fine, because it is going to be a night game of some kind. Start between 5 and 7, whenever that they pick that start time in that window. But I think as the season progresses, 6-0 is what I feel too. I think they take care of business, get through Kentucky and South Carolina, which I know that's a tough place, but this is a down South Carolina team, I believe. So 6-0 is where they should be heading to Baton Rouge. But I could see that line fluctuating. If Ole Miss looks good the first half of the season, and if LSU maybe stumbles a little bit, I could see it being a pick 'em, or maybe Ole Miss getting a 1 or 2 point, kind of in their favor heading into that. But I think that's a spread that's going to fluctuate and stay close to where it is till we get to October 12th.
Okay. Jake Thompson, the Ole Miss Spirit, joining us on the Out of Bounds show. The most highly anticipated season in the history of Ole Miss football, 2024. I think they can sleepwalk to 6-0, and then they go to Baton Rouge, as Jake was talking about, in which could be an epic game down in Baton Rouge on October 12th. Ole Miss at LSU, October 12th. And LSU has a week off the week before that game, and Ole Miss will go to Columbia, South Carolina, and play South Carolina. We know that Ole Miss is got one of the best quarterbacks in the country, and wide receivers look amazing. Plenty of depth at running back. There's some other spots where they feel really good. Is there a place on the field where there's some question marks?
I still think offensive line until we just see that it's improved. I know he added, the 2 guys from Washington, and you've got veterans, returners, and Caleb Warren, Jeremy James, and some others. But I still think I need to see them kind of improved to feel better about that, because the rest of the offense, as you rattled off, the skill players are there, the quarterback's there, the protection, that's what we need to see if it's a little bit better in those matchups like the Georgias, LSU's, Oklahomas, where it's going to be a little tougher than the Furmans and the Middle Tennessees in September. So, that's my one question mark over there. Defensive line was fine last year. It's really good now. If Nolan and Princely do what people expect them to do, and why Kiffin fought to get them out of the portal. Added some at linebacker, but linebacker and secondary is kind of like the offensive line to me. I need to see that those additions in year 2 under Pete Golding is taking hold, and the second 2 levels, back 2 levels of the defense, it takes a step forward, because I think secondary might be the weak spot, heading into this season, but they did make some moves to shore that up and try to help with the loss of Adajon Anthony and DeAndre Prince, who are no longer there. But there's just so many kind of new pieces that are expected to be role players back there that's kind of my big question mark on the defense.
All right, so maybe a little bit at linebacker, and in the secondary, we'll see about the 2 big dudes from Washington and how that all settles in here over the next couple of weeks. Is the first big scrimmage, Jake, this weekend?
It should be, but they haven't really told us. I know this past Saturday everybody was spread out, either attending Eli's Hall of Fame ceremony in Mississippi or up in Canton celebrating Patrick Willis's big Hall of Fame moment. So we didn't have anything this weekend, but we may get something starting this Saturday. I would assume, even if we don't get to see it, this would be their first big scrimmage of fall coming up this weekend.
That was cool. Patrick Willis going into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And yeah, Eli was down here getting it. It was a great Mississippi Sports Hall of Fame class. So that was really cool. All right. What's your schedule? How many games do you think you're going to make this year?
I am currently booked to make all of them. I'm excited. This road schedule for me is exciting. I've never been to Columbia. I've always wanted to see a game in that atmosphere. Everybody talks about it and being there, witnessing that environment live. And then I'm excited to head to Gainesville. Never been to the Swamp, so I'm looking forward to that one in November. Nice.
I've been to both. You'll enjoy them. It'll be interesting to see if you actually, if Billy Napier is still the coach at Florida when Ole Miss plays them. November 23rd.
We talk about Ole Miss having that favorable schedule. It's like a 180 for Florida. I don't envy that. I wouldn't wish that on any team to close like Florida's got to close out.
No, that's, they start the season with Miami. Unbelievable. And they play Central Florida and Florida State. Those are three tough non-conference games. When Lane was talking about how they look like Georgia and Bama last week, that the team looked more like Georgia and Bama last week. What was your reaction? What was your takeaway, Jake?
That was kind of what he said right after, moments after that loss in Athens, was we just didn't have the, that cliched off the bus look. We didn't win the off the bus eye test or the pregame warm up eye test. We just didn't have the guys that look like, this is a team that's going to give the other team fits. And now this is his fifth season. So for 4 years, this team has not looked how, in his eyes, this team looks to him, warming up, just on the field, kind of just body presence. And for him to have that confidence, at least in those areas, which is what he wanted to get answered, I think that's half the battle for him to now. But now you got to do the X's and O's part. So I think he feels like we've got the guys, but now we got to see if those guys can execute in the big moments against the Georgias and so on and so forth. So I think he feels good, heading in the right direction. But now, like we said, we've got to execute that and see what they do in the trenches.
Yeah. Okay, so the SEC championship game, Jake, there's kind of a debate here. You want to get there, but it's an added game before now, an extended college football playoff, and it's kind of a catch-22 as far as playing a physical game in December and then turning right around a couple weeks later and playing your first college football game. Has there been any discussion about that with you and some of your buddies?
It is kind of the, I guess, Sophie's choice, so to speak, because if you fall in the right way of the bracket or the seedings, however they lay or you lay, if you make the playoffs, you could be playing in Atlanta, I think 3 times in the span of a month or a little over a month, because it's the SEC title game, then the Peach Bowl and the quarterfinals. And then if whoever makes it, if you're that team, you're back in Atlanta for the national title game in late January. So, that's just a tough stretch. But, it begs the question, would you rather not play in the SEC championship game but still feel like you've got one of those 5 through 12 or 5 through 8 seeds to host a first-round game and not risk losing that spot in Atlanta if that game doesn't go your way and you get a week off? Because you're not playing a championship game in first weekend of December and then off a month doing bowl practices. It's a whole new world. You're basically playing an NFL schedule, and it's almost the same amount of games if you run the table and make it to the national title game.
Right.
So it's a war of attrition. It's going to be new for these guys. It's they haven't done this before. Any team Now the Georgias and Texas and all those have kind of made those runs, but it's still a couple added games, even tough schedule they're used to. So it is going to be interesting to see how that goes. And obviously the mindset, if you ask them, yes, we want to go to Atlanta. Ole Miss has never been. They love to win that or have a chance for it. But it also is, will they not be too upset about it if they feel like they're firmly in and will make the playoff if they don't play in Atlanta too? So it is kind of that back and forth catch-22.
Do you think this team is head and shoulders more talented than the 2015 team?
Oh yeah, but overall, top to bottom, I do. You had key guys in a lot of areas, but I don't think they were as well-rounded and maybe even depth-wise better than they were in 2015. Where if you had some injuries in 2015, you didn't know what was behind you in the number 2 or number 3 spot because they just may not have been tested, or they hadn't played a lot, or there just wasn't depth there in certain positions. I think they have worked to feel like they've got depth in every position. So I think just from that aspect, this is a probably a more legit team for expectation-wise because of the roster than 9 years ago.
Okay. We're visiting with Jake Thompson, Ole Miss Spirit. He joins us on the Out of Bounds show, ESPN 105.9 The Zone. All right, where did you move in Oxford? From where to where?
Oh, just from an apartment just up the road to a nice little 2-bedroom rental.
Nice.
So it was not hard, but it was, of course, in the 1st of August, it was very hot, and everybody else is moving in or trying to move. So I hadn't had to experience that in over a decade. So I kind of forgot how bad that was, but I'm settled. The rest I can do at my own speed, and I'm locked into football now.
Oh man, I bet you're glad to knock that out, man.
Yeah, it was a long weekend.
All right. Well, we'll have to do this again soon. So you heading out there in a few minutes?
Yeah, once I get done here, I'll strap the shoes on and head out to practice.
All right. Well, make sure everybody's operating at the optimal level, and
I will
give Kiffin some pointers.
Sure I'll make sure the P's and Q's are on point.
Yeah. Now, you said in your bio, it says you're a Red Sox enthusiast.
I am.
My man Jackson, my producer who called you, he's a big Red Sox fan. I'm
sorry that he has to suffer also.
Hey, man, y'all been on a roll in the 2000s.
Yeah, no, that's what I tell all my friends is they've won 4 in the last 20 years, so I have no reason to complain, unlike some other franchises. I would love for them to just be competitive past the trade deadline, just keep me interested, but I'm not sitting here begging for a World Series every year, so I've learned not to be greedy.
Who's your favorite Boston Red Sox?
Probably Johnny Damon. Just that like they were dubbed the idiots. That he was kind of special to me. He looked different. He had the long hair. He had that caveman look, and so I always liked him.
Love it. Jackson Meadows, what do you think about that?
Oh man, having him and Manny.
Yeah.
Oh, Manny's the man.
Okay.
Damon.
That 04 team had some special players.
It's incredible.
Yeah, y'all stole Damon from the A's.
And then he got yanked from us to the worst team
Yankees?
possible. Yeah, buddy.
Like the Darth Vader
had to cut his hair.
They cut his hair.
Oh yeah,
the Yankees are clean shaven and cut.
Steinbrenner was still alive, right?
He was,
I think, and made him do that. Okay, I totally forgot about that
unspoken rule that they had.
Now, Jake Thompson, as an Ole Miss insider and fan, were you able to cheer for Jonathan Papelbon?
It was tough, but I did the Red Sox part. I can separate, the college. I'm able to do that. So we needed him. He was good, and I moved on.
I love it. All right. Well, man, try to stay cool. We'll talk soon. Okay.
Yeah. Y'all have a good day. Appreciate it.
All right, man. Jake Thompson, Ole Miss Spirit. He joins us on the Farm Bureau Insurance guest line. He says, no doubt, this team more talented than the 2015 team. Remember, 2015 team had obviously Laramie Tunsil, who should have gone number 1 if it wasn't for the bong gas mask thing. Bona fide Hall of Famer. Yeah, best offensive lineman in the draft, played the most important position on the offensive line. Although I think all the value of the offensive line has changed. Like, I mean, the guard is so important, both, and the center position is so important. But we talk about the tackles, left and right. Steve Palazzolo, Pro Football Focus, will tell you that the right is just about as important as the left. But you had Tunsil first round, Kimdichie first round, and Treadwell first round, plus a bunch of other pros on that team. I mean, Chad Kelly was an unbelievable college quarterback.
Absolutely.
Should have been an NFL QB. Evan Ingram the next year was a first. So that's 4 first-round picks. Tony Connor, I think, would have been a top 2 or 3 round pick if he doesn't tear up his knee.
Absolutely.
Of course, the Mike Hiltons and the Adeboyos and the Coors and many others in the offensive and defensive line. You had a lot of pros on that team. So, but Jake said, "Hey, this is a more talented, deeper roster than 2015."
I can buy him on the depth. That's where I kind of. I mean, I've been skeptical, obviously, because that was a very talented team back then.
Right.
But the depth part, he is right. I mean, star power was there in 15, obviously.
Yeah.
But it was kind of more so on the heavier on the front side. I don't know what they had back
Top
then.
end.
Yeah. I mean, if one goes down, what happens? Well, this one, I don't want to say it's next man up because it's not that yet for anyone in this state. But getting there, I guess.
I get the argument.
I'm with it,
it maybe it's just absolute clear cut head and shoulders. That's just a lot to say, considering I've got 4 first rounders off that team, 3 in one draft, 1 in the next, and then there was a ton of talent there. So we'll see. They're going to be good. Are they going to be really, really good or special, or the most special team in the history of the state? There's just a lot going on.
Who holds that title currently?
Most special team in the history of the state.
It's the Mississippi State baseball team.
What are you just talking football or any sport?
Any sport.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a heck of a debate.
Yeah.
You've got a Final Four team.
A couple of championship teams.
You got 2 championship teams in Mississippi State and Ole Miss baseball.
Had some really good years.
You got Ole Miss football last year.
Is it? I mean, we're not counting vault days. If we do,
pre-integration is tough when not allowing everybody to play.
Right.
As you know, if you've listened to the show, I really, really, really struggle with that.
Same.
We're live in the Bank Plus studio. We are the Out of Bounds Show, 105.9 The Zone, ESPN, brought to you by the Armory, Lake Harbor and Ridgeland. Firearms, optics, suppressors. The Armory, Lake Harbor and Ridgeland.